Hello everyone, welcome to channel. In today's session, we are going to talk about advanced features or advanced properties in SSAS Multi-Dimensional Cube. And here we are going to cover all these below topics. By completing these, covering these topics, you will be very good at SSAS Multi-Dimensional Cube. So where you will be able to complete the development, design, and deploy the full entire multidimensional cube. So the topics that I'm going to cover here, first we're going to cover the creating the calculated members, and then how to deploy them, and then customized calculations within the cube, and partitions and actions and perspectives and translations, and post that how to take the cube in online and start making the changes. Instead of deploying the entire cube, you can deploy the cube only related to the changes that you made. That is the one we're going to talk about. And then also we're going to talk about how to restore the cube solution if at all we lost it. So these are the topics that I'm going to cover. Now, before we go into the details, let me quickly one step go back and review what we discussed in our previous videos, which are related to the current advanced topic. So the first one is the how to create the facts and dimension. That one we covered in this particular video, and then using those facts and dimensions, we created the SSAS MOLAP basic cube, and then now we are going to discuss now advanced topic. So I would request you, if at all you directly come into this advanced session, I would please go through these previous two videos and come back to here so that it will be easy to understand what we are doing in our advanced session. So without delay, let's get started advanced session. To start with covering the first topic, which is the uh, calculated members and how to explore the data and deploy the calculated members to end user. To cover these three topics, we need to open the Visual Studio. So I just opened the Visual Studio and I'm going back to my previous cube solution that I created for the previous video. So now this is my existed cube solution. And from here, what I do, I go to the data source view. Within the data source view, I'm going to create one calculated member for the fact table. Okay, so my new calculated member or new calculated column will be sum of sales base quantity and sales product quantity. Now I'm going to create that new named calculation. That is the option that I choose, and then here I will select sales total quantity, and here I sum it up, sales and base quantity plus sales product quantity. Now click OK. When you do that, it's created the new column in my fact tables. And similarly, you can do the same thing, same way in even dimensions also. You can create a new calculated measure. And here what I'll do, so I'll just create a new category, which is just appending with some, so I'll append with prod. Okay, and then I'll concatenate with the dash, and then my original category value, and click OK. So now my new category column also created. Now you can see these values, whether your statement is parsing or not. You can click on the explore data. If you're able to successfully get this data, you can see here new category part concatenated with category, which is working good. So the new column don't have any expression issues. Everything is good. And similarly, you can do same thing for the fact sales and click on the explore data. When you click on the explore data, it will bring the top 200 rows from the your results, from your table. And this scenario, it's just summing up sales base quantity and sales product quantity. And you can validate whether the expression is working or not. Everything is looks good, and so that means we don't have any issue with this newly created named calculation. Now let's go into see how we are going to make it available for the end user. So for the dimension level, since I created this new column, which is available under my dimension. Now to make it available for the user, we need to drag into the left side, and you can keep it a new category, or you can rename it anything. So I can say category 2 instead of new category. This is my renamed column. So for the end user, it will appear like a category 2. So that's how you can rename even any attribute in your dimension. So if you want to rename it, you can rename it on the left side. So whatever you rename to here, this will be visible for the user. Now let's move on to how we are going to add the new total measure column that we created in our fact table right here. So we need to bring this measure also to the our cube. So since it's a measure, so and it won't available here, and you need to manually right click and measure group, right click on measure group, click on new measure, then it will appear under the sales total quantity. Now, so whatever the measure columns you have in your measure fact table, those columns will be appearing in here. So now our newly created column is available under the list, so which is sales total quantity. Then I click and I selected that column and click OK. So now my measure is created. Now, so that's so once we are added the measure group, yeah, new column added to the measure group and dimension also added. Now we can go ahead and deploy our cube. So now let's deploy the cube. It's telling that there is it's a kind of warning. It's telling that there is a change between the existed version in SSMS and the one in the Visual Studio. So, and it's asking me to, would you like to continue to deploy the new changes? I say yes. Once we click that, it will start deploying the cube. That's it. So the cube is deployed. Now we'll go ahead and connect to the, as usual. So we'll open the fresh Excel file and then go to the Excel file and we'll connect to the cube. So how you connect? So data, get data tab, from database, from analysis service. And here we can give our analysis service server name. Localhost, that is my server name. Click next. Under that I will have my retail cube, and then I select my POC cube. Click next, finish, and then I choose the pivot table report because I want to do the reporting in pivot format. Now if I go here, then you can see your total quantity is available now, and also you can see uh, category 2. Okay, so you got all your newly created columns. This is how we deploy the changes in the cube. With that, so we covered these 3 points. Now move on how we are going to create the customized calculation. Okay, so now let me go back to the Visual Studio again, and here we'll have a dimension. So next to the dimension usage, we have a calculations. Under the calculation, what we need to do, so we can right click and here you can click the new calculated member. So here, let's say I want to, what I want to do, so for this measure, right, I want to calculate one, let's say multiply with, I want to convert sales NDP, not sales NDP, sales net USD into million format. Okay, so for that, what I do, I'll say sell in net USD in M format. I can put it that way, and then here I choose sell it, and then it to multiplied with my 1 million. So 6 zeros, and after that, it will ask you which format do you want to display that particular measure. You can select anything. So I choose this option. The hash is nothing but that's the number. Okay, it won't round off. It will show exactly, and then zero is nothing but. So that's the way it will round off to nearest zero value, and then the decimal values will be rounding off to zero. And in case if you want to display your measure value with dollar format, you can use this format string. And if you want to display the percentage format, you can select this option. And if you want to display in the standard integer format, you can select this option. And if you want to display in the proper if it is the uh, time related attribute or time related measure, you can display in this format, whichever the format. So for now, I'll choose the dollar format. And then if you want to enable, do you want to make this measure for the end user? If you say true, it will be visible for the user. If it is say false, then it won't be visible to anyone. And non-empty behavior generally, so this non-empty behavior will help to avoid the null records from your results set. If at all you have a lot of null records, non-empty will exclude the null records. So since we are creating the calculated measure based on the base measure called sales in net USD, so only you can apply the non-empty behavior on top of your base measure. You cannot apply on top of the calculated measure. In our scenario, we are using the sales in net USD as our base measure. Based on that, we are converting the billion format. So now this scenario, I'm going to select sales in net USD to exclude, apply the non-empty behavior. So under the sales in net USD, if at all any null records come up, it will exclude. But one keynote from 2016 onwards, I mean, selecting this option is not mandatory anymore to exclude the null records because the cube has intelligence to exclude the null records automatically. But to avoid unsurprised results, I would suggest to use this non-empty behavior. But in fact, um, if you don't want to do that, you can leave it as a blank. So, but check your scenario before you're applying any option here. Okay, and then you can also map this associated measure group. So this particular calculated member is belongs to our measure group called fact sales measure group. That is the measure group I mentioned. And if you want to display this newly created measure into any specific folder when the user browse it, you can do that. So now here I'll say um, cal- calculated measures, and then this is the folder I created. And rest of the options, like you can write your color expressions, font expressions, because this will help you to set the thresholds. If your value is, let's say you put any bucketing or anything, right? So if you want to do some kind of coloring for your revenue values, you can use this color expression and font expression. But nowadays all our application front end applications providing those options. I don't think spending time on these two options might not be good. So let's move on. Now I'm good with creating my first calculated measure. If you This is the form view that I selected here. Okay, but if you want to go in the script view, so you can change this to script view. So this is how it created the measure, calculated measure, and this is how the MDX statement was built in the backend. But again, you want to bring back to form view, so you can click on this option so that again you will come back to the form view. So this is how you created the calculated measure. Now let's go and create one more calculated measure. This time what I want, so I want to bring the sell in net USD, which is my previous month sell in net USD. Let's say if I selected any specific month, so for that month I want to display the current month, as well as in the next column I want to display my previous month revenue. For that, what I do, so I will take this sales net USD, that is the measure, and then what I'll do, okay, so here little tricky part that we need to apply, and then you can take the month from the calendar month here, and then calendar month, okay, and then current member, current member dot previous month. So this is how you can write. Now what will happen based on your so when it, as soon as you drag the month for that chosen month, it will take the sales net USD and it will go back to the previous cell and find out what is the previous month sales in net USD, and it will bring that value and display under the this particular calculated measure. Okay, I'll show you when we browse in the Excel. Okay, how this formula works. Okay, and then again the format string, I want to keep it in dollar format, enable for the user, and then I want to apply the non-empty behavior under the sales in net USD, and then display folder is, I want to display this measure under my calculated measures, and here also I'll choose that, and then fact sales. Now we are good with creating totally two calculated measures. Now let's deploy the calculated measure. So this time what we can do, so since we only, compared to the last deployment and current deployment, we only just added the two measures. That's all. We haven't made any changes in terms of the structural changes at dimension level or fact level, right? So in that case, we don't need to deploy the full cube. So instead of that, what we can do, we can deploy only changes, deploy changes. So that you can do by changing the properties of the solution explorer. So now here you go to solution explorer properties and you come to this window, go to the deployment tab. Under that, change the server mode to deploy changes only. Under the transaction deployment, make it true. That's it. If you change these two options, two properties, the queue will understand, okay, you're expecting to deploy the only the new changes instead of entire queue. So now when I click apply, click OK, and then this time click on play button. When you do the play button, click the play button, so it's deployed. Now this time it's only deployed the just changes, the calculations. Okay, now we'll go ahead and refresh our Excel file so that the latest changes will come to the Excel. Now here we'll take see, there are the new calculations that we created, and it's appearing under the fact sales measure group, and these are our newly created measure groups. Now we'll add them here, and then here also we can add it, and then here we are getting some problem. Okay, I think so what we can do, and let me see how many months data we have. Do we have a month's data? Okay, and then okay, so why it's duplicating? Okay, I have the month value, but it's coming as this way. What could be the problem? Let me see the my calculations one more time, and then here, okay, I need to aggregate. I think I missed that part. Okay, because it's not able to slice, so I need to use the sum. And then now let me deploy again. I think having the million multiply, I mean converting to million, it's seems it's a huge value, but instead of multiplying, let me do the division. So that it will reduce the display value in Excel, right? So I changed from multiplication to division so that we'll get the less value. Currently, the value is very huge here. Okay, so then let me go back and check one more thing. So transaction date, the relationship, so that we talked about it, and both places transaction date is enabled, and then we are good. Let me deploy. So now the solution is deployed again. Now let me refresh my Excel file. Okay, so still we are getting the problem. Now, so how you can solve this problem? And then simply calculations and PM, and then what I'm missing here, I think I'm using extra CY month. Okay, now it should work. Let's see. Okay, now again I deployed the cube, and then go ahead here and then refresh. Now, bingo. So you can see here. Uh, how do I show you it? Let me filter out of all the months. Let me filter out. So only few records. So I choose April 22, and then I choose the March 22. March 22, that is my previous month value. Now you can see here. So for March, this is 355, and for this month, April. Okay, so previous month value 332, and then for this, okay, why it's coming, both values are same. That's just okay. So previous point, we I told you, right, so that the previous month cell in nativest is not working correctly. So now what I did, so I just enabled the hierarchy in my time dimensions. So you can see here under the time dimensions, I have enabled the hierarchy. So to enable the hierarchy, it's a simple. Let me show you how to enable the hierarchy. Hierarchy is nothing but you define your relationship from top to bottom or bottom to top. So my scenario, I want year first, and then half year next, and then quarter next, and then month, and then transaction date. I'll name it this hierarchy as my CY time. Okay. Once I do that, then you need to go to your calculation and change your formula from your normal time dimension to the CY time hierarchy. You can see here, this is my hierarchy that I created. Then you need to select the current member and previous member. Current member will bring you your current selection, and previous member will go back to the one cell. In the order of the month, it will go back to the previous cell and bring the previous month sales information, and then it will be aggregated. Now let's get deploy and then see what will happen. Okay, so the cube is deployed now, and then we go back to the Excel and refresh. But yeah, before you refresh here, once you refresh, you need to, instead of using the normal calendar month, you need to use the hierarchy in your report. So now I use the hierarchy in my report. So that's where you can see here, September, I was in here, sellout net USD is 33293. And whereas in the previous month is nothing but, which is August month revenue is this much. Okay, so now you can see the previous month sell in net USD is working as expected. So yeah, those again, since previously we missed the hierarchy in the time dimension, that's the reason we are not able to achieve this. And once we created the hierarchy, it started working in expected way. That's how the calculations work. You can write any calculations. It's just given simple calculation. But if you, yeah, again, I'm just echoing. Go back to my other playlist called Data Analytics with MDX. You can explore all your MDX functions and writing in your calculation under the calculations tab. Now moving on. So we go to the actions tab. I think that's in our order. No. So in as per our order, next one is the partitions. Partitions is basically it's like you're splitting the data. Let's say you have a 5 years of data, right? So you don't need to actually process the 5 years data on daily basis. Let's say on the day-to-day basis in your database, you're only getting the current 4 months information out of 5 years, right? So for that, you don't need to reprocess entire 5 years data again and again, right? So for that reason, what you can do, you can create partitions based on your filter criteria, and then you can keep your the volume of the process that you do on database is very low. So what you can do, you can create multiple partitions, how many partitions you want, but careful when you don't go too many partitions. Based on your volume of the data and based on your criteria, filter criteria, you can go ahead and create your own partitions. Now whatever you see here, by default there is a one partitions got created when we design the first measure group, but eventually you can delete this particular partition what is a system created defaultly, and then you can click OK, and then I deleted the partition. So now click on new partition, then select, click go to next, and it will ask you which measure group you want to select and create a partition. I want to create the partition on my fact sales measure group. Click next, and then specify the query. And for here, what I'll do, I will, so let me write one query so that I can filter out the data effectively. So here, what I'll do, I'll create a two queries for my fact table. Now I go here, select top 1000, and then I'll get the query from this query. What I'll do, I will write a where clause here. Always test your queries in SSMS, then put it in your cube so that it will save a lot of your deployment effort. Okay. Now here, what I will do, any record greater than 23 January, I want to put it in one partition. Okay. And then I take this, and then I just added a where clause. Now what will happen? So whatever the data that is get filtered out here, right, based on this criteria. Okay, based on this criteria. Now only these set of records will be goes under the specified partition. Okay, so then here I check the syntax and the query is parsed successfully. And then what I will do, I will click next, and then you need to select whether you want to create that partition in the current server instance or remote server data source. So for us it will be current server instance. Don't change any location. Click next, and you can give your the partition name. So I want to give 23 onwards. That is my partition name. And then design aggregation partition for the partition. Now what will happen when I click finish? Now the aggregation window will open. So basically the aggregation will be, it's like optimizing your storage of the data and aggregate based on your dimension primary keys and foreign keys. You can see here the definition already mentioned here. Aggregations are pre-calculated summaries of the data that makes query in the cube faster. Okay, based on your partition, based on your dimensions and all those things, the system by default will create aggregations. But in case if you want to recreate your aggregations, yes, you can do that. I'll come to that point after completion of partition, but for now we'll go with the default aggregation selection. I don't change anything. So click next, and then I keep everything as it is same. Click next, and then I ask system to count the estimated records and partitions of record. Based on the count, I'll ask system, okay, give me the estimated storage reaches to 100 MB. So the particular partition, if it is reaches to 100 MB, it will, I mean, I'm just telling to my system, the partition won't, estimated storage reaches to 100 MB. Based on that, you can create your, how many aggregations is required for that particular query, it will create it. Or you can choose the next option, performance gain reaches 30%. So I'm expecting when the performance gains 30%, then you can create those many aggregations. Based on these parameters, your aggregations will get created, the number of aggregations. Okay, you can choose I click stop, because when the aggregations keep on increasing, you can stop it. How many aggregations you require, you can stop it. But in my scenario, I always choose the performance gain reaches 30%. That's good, where it will give the good performance. The last option is don't design aggregations. So it won't design any aggregation. If you don't design any aggregation, then you will get a lot of performance issues. Now I choose the second option. With that, I click start. So now it will see, you'll see based on your parameter, it will start creating the aggregation. So the aggregations will be created. So when it reached to 30%, there are 12 aggregations got created. If I set to this 40%, then it will go to this 40%. By the time it reaches to 40%, how many aggregations get created, then it will create those many aggregations. Since we selected 30%, so let's move on. Click next, and then you can give an aggregation name, whichever the aggregation name you want, then click finish. That's it. So now the aggregation is created. Now, once we deploy this cube, since I haven't added the another partition with before 2023 data, right? So now if you browse the cube, you'll see only the data from 23 onwards. Let's see. Let me deploy the my partition. I click start button. Again, I'm trying to deploy the incremental deployment, just only the transaction deployment. Now it's completed. Always remember, the transaction deployment is more faster than the full deployment. Okay, so now the cube is deployed, and then I go to my Excel file and refresh. Okay, when you do that, what will happen? You see data only 23 onwards, because that's the partition we created, right? So that's the reason it start filtering the data from 23 January onwards. That's how the partitions works. And this is how the partition, basically the partitions, why we created partitions. There are two ways that you get benefit to create this partition. You will split the data in chunks, and because of these chunks, while you're processing the data, instead of processing entire 5 years of data, and you will have a more control to process only the impacted period. You can process only impacted period data instead of everything. That is the one thing. Second thing is, let's say you have a lot of calculation, cube calculations, right? Those are built based on the month level. So the criteria is the month wise, they build a lot of calculations. Such scenario, if you create a partition on month wise, what will happen? The cube will be work very fast to do those calculations, because you already have the partitions in month wise and your reporting need is on month wise. Then you can get a lot of query benefit. So these are the two benefits that you get it. And then moving on, so aggregations I already mentioned. So this is the default aggregations that is created, but again, you can customize this aggregation based on which criteria you want. You can do that. Okay, and if you go to the how you do that, you need to click on this advanced view, and then here measure group is there, and then aggregation design. So you can select this option, and then here you can choose uh, based on what criteria you want to build aggregation. Let's say I want to build my aggregation based on my customer name. Okay, and then so you can select these. I do all these aggregations. You can select, and then you can sorting. You can do the sorting of the data. So because the aggregation is the predefined calculations, right, that stores the data. So what you can do, you can based on the customer name, ascending to descending, you can build your own aggregation. And then once you've done that, then the next step is new aggregation design, advanced view. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm modifying only the existing aggregation. I did create a new one. My apologies. Let me create the new aggregation. So let's create a new aggregation. And then here, again, I choose the based on my customer name. And then I want to create aggregation based on my name instead of the code. And then I unselect all the remaining thing. Now the aggregations will be built based on the customer name instead of the default one that chosen by customer code. Customer code, why it's chosen aggregation based on the customer code, because that's the primary key in that particular dimension. That's the reason it choose the customer code, but I changed that to customer name. Now we are good with this, and then once we are done with that, and then we can go to standard view, and you can see here why the aggregation is not came up. Let me see. Did I made any mistake? Uh, Design. Okay, so this is the design that you can do. Why my aggregation is not coming up? Did I select? Okay, no. It's the aggregation that we selected. Okay, and then new aggregation design, and this is the one new aggregation, and then advanced view. I think we need to select new aggregation. Okay, so we need to select a new one. Let me create empty aggregation and design. Okay, this is the one, my customized aggregation. Click OK, and here, yeah, this is the one I created. Now what I'll do, I'll select my aggregation. Okay, now this time what I'll do, here I choose this option, range. Okay, range also didn't come, and I think something I'm missing. Mm, okay, so here it's created design aggregations, and then go next, and then next, and here for this wizard alone count, like next, and this time no, I am doing something. So okay, sorry, my aggregation is created, aggregation design to. Now I need to change, map the partition, which other partitions needs to map to this aggregation. You can select this aggregation and map the partition. Now what will happen, this aggregation is only work for these particular partitions, which are the partitions that we created and mapped. Because this customized aggregation, how it works, suppose the users are more fetching the data for past 2 years, right, instead of 5 years. Most of the users, they are querying only current 2 years. In such scenario, what you can do, you can create another aggregation, which where you can map that aggregation to that particular 2 years partitions alone. So those scenario, what will happen, since the aggregation is built on top of the 2 years, so whoever used those 2 years data, so they will have a good performance of the good query experience. Okay, so that's how the aggregation works. And then move on to next one. So next one is the perspectives. Perspective is nothing but it's just only view, virtual views in the cube. So already you already aware of it. We create a SQL views, right? Same way the perspectives works, and you can restrict your I mean data. Instead of 5 years, if you want to provide only 1 year data in the particular view, then you can do that. So how you're going to create perspectives? You can click on new perspective, and then once you clicked it, so it's created, and then you can say here 2023 data. That is my perspective name. And here you can I don't want to, in this view I don't want to enable these measures and just keep only these four measures, and also I want to control the attributes. I don't want to display this code, and I don't want to display these calculations. I don't want to display, you can just control whichever the measure you want to control. I mean, just control the attributes that you don't want to expose to this view. Okay, so that's how the perspective works. Let's say there is a scenario where you have 1,000 attributes in your cube. Out of 1,000 attributes, the users might not require, right? For their reporting purpose, they used only 200 or 300 attributes. So instead of exposing all the 1,000 attributes, what you can do, you can simply expose the 300 attributes under the perspective, new perspective, so that let the user browse the perspective that you created, so that they will see only 300 attributes. That's how it will work. You can create many perspectives. There is no limitation. You can create a number of perspectives, and you can give name, whatever name you want. You can give it. It will work. So that's how the perspectives work. Now let me deploy these changes. So far we made a lot of changes, right? So let me deploy till here, and again I want to deploy only the changes that I made. So that's the reason I'm doing the transaction deployment. Now I'm good with transaction deployment. Now I go here and refresh. Oh. Now what will happen? You can't see the prospectus here. This time what you need to do, you need to connect your analysis service again. For that, again, now go to the new sheet and go to the get data from database from analysis service, and then click local host, and then click next, and then this time you'll see retail cube. Yeah, now we can see along with POC cube, you'll see perspective, three perspective that we created. Okay, so that's how you can connect your perspectives and limit your entire attributes list. Okay, so moving on, the other topic is translation. That will be our next topic. Translations. So basically, translations will help you to translate your list of attributes and measure group names. Let's say you have a column under the here the dimension, right? So what will happen? The business asks you. I mean, some of the power users might ask you, like, I don't want dim buyer customer. Instead of that, they want to name it like a buyer customer. So I can do that by changing the dimension name here, rename and rename the buyer customer dimension and deploy the cube. That's not a problem. But what will happen? Let's say your cube is there are 1,000 users using your cube. Out of 1,000 users, only 500 users are looking for the change in their buyer customer name, and 500 users they're not looking for, or they are least bothered about this name. But when you do this change, what will happen? Their existing reports will get impacted, right? So to avoid that impact, we can use this translation safely. Now what I can do here, so I'll create one new translation, right? And then here I choose I don't want to choose any new thing. Where is that? English United States. That's the one I'm going to select. English here, English. Okay, let me take the English India. Okay, so then for English India alone, they want to name it buyer customer to dim buyer customer to buyer customer. Okay, so that's it. Now what will happen? Let's see. Start, and then I rename the buyer customer and deploy the cube. Now if I go back to my Excel file and refresh all, what will happen? And then you can see here my okay, it's not. Oh, okay. Why it's not picked up? Because my system language is English US, but here I create a translation for English India. Now I need to change this to English US. Okay, let me change this to English United States. Right, there you go. Click OK, and then here I want to name it buyer customer. Okay, and then now this time I'll deploy. Okay, so my cube is deployed. Okay, you can see here under the deployment progress it's deployed. And then here I go to my Excel and the refresh all, and then See, now the buyer customer name is changed from dim buyer customer to buyer customer because of my language. Let's say for Spanish people, right? So if Spanish people, they want to see this name in different way. Instead of buyer customer, they will give some other name. If you want to, uh, instead of buyer customer, if they want to display like customer, that's the one thing they want to see in their reporting. So you can use this translation, so you can create translations for all these languages. Basically how it will take this language, the cube, whenever the user is getting connected to cube, right? So it will take their windows pack language. Based on the language, if that particular translation is available enabled within the cube, so all our dimension attributes or measure groups, it will be translated from English to their local language. Let's say I define here a new translation with Spanish. I give all the Spanish names, what are the equivalent Spanish name for this default language. When the Spanish user is connected from his laptop by selecting his Windows language to the Spanish and connect to the cube, what will happen? He won't see in the in his browser the entire cube will show the Spanish names instead of the English names, right? So that's how the translation works. Not only that, you can convert your dimension name even in the English language, okay, by choosing the English United States. That's how the translation. But again, you will have an individual translation your dimension. So this translation will help you to rename your particular attribute. Let's say, as I mentioned, right? So again, you can do one attribute. So whichever the attribute you want to translate at the dimension level, that you can do it under the each dimension. But in the cube level, you can do only the translation at your measure group and your dimension names. But here it won't allow you to do any attribute dimension attribute level translation. That is the difference between the translation in the cube and as well as in your dimension. That's about translation. Now the other important property is, let's say you have one measure here, right? So if you go back to the cube structure and you have the let me go back to here. Under here, you can see under the buyer geo and everywhere you have the all the dimension attributes are appearing. But there might be the ask from the client that he is asking, okay, can you hide the half year, entire physical year, those attributes? When you ask for it, what you can do, you can go to that cube. Under the cube, go to the dimensions tab. Under the cube structure, this is the cube structure. Under that, go to the dimensions tab, expand the dimension, go to that particular attribute, right click, properties, and here you need to change this to attribute hierarchy visible to false. And also you can do same thing for physical year month and change to false, and then physical year quarter change to false, and also physical year change to false. And then what do we need to do? So after you made these changes at your dimension level, what we need to do, so we need to deploy the full queue. So usually, so you click on process, then it will ask you to first deploy the changes, then process. Yes, I click yes, and then click yes again. So and then process full, because that's the dimension level changes, right? So now what will happen? So some reasons the cache didn't work. So now you can see here, I just rebuild the fresh connection to the Excel on this time. The columns are hidden in the right side. So this is how you can control your dimension visibility in the cube. You can create the dimension, but whenever you want to hide it, you can do the hiding part. So if you want to hide those dimension attributes entirely, then you can control from the dimension level. But if you want to hide those columns within the cube, I mean, whichever the cube you want to hide them, you can do that from the cube side, going into the cube structure. Under that you have a dimensions, and each dimension you go to the dimension attribute, go to the properties, and change this option from true to false. That's how you can hide the dimension. So that's about the pretty good properties actually. So with these properties, you're good to actually deploy the medium scale cube into your organization to solve your business problem. Okay, let's move on to the other topics. So how you can take the cube online and how you can restore your cube if at all you lose the solution. In between, actually, I forgot to mention a couple of topics. Before we're going to take the discuss on the taking the online cube, then I quickly cover it up. The two tabs in the cube. One is the KPIs. So KPIs is actually it's nothing but key performance indicator. But yeah, so as per the examples, actually you can set the indicators based on your revenue or sales. If that particular sales is meeting that criterion, then you can put some indicators green, red, yellow. But actually, I never I mean, past my 15 years experience, I never seen anybody asking this KPIs enablement within the cube. So I'm not going to spend time on to explain this topic. But in case if anyone interested to understand, please drop a note in the comment section so that I will uh, prepare the KPIs indicator video separately. Otherwise, then I will not discuss. Then moving on, the actions part tab. So the actions tab is work like more, to get the detailed information. Let me go back to that one example. So to have a better understanding where exactly we use the actions. And then here I connected to the get data from database, from analysis service and local host. Then I connect to the my cube. Okay, and then right here cube and then my POC cube, click and finish and pivot table report. Now let me drag some one measure to, let's say I have a sales in net USD, and this information I have it available till let's say month level. Okay, so I have the information here, and now for let's say I want to see for this semester one. um, so now I see some revenue value, right? Let's say you can expand further, and then further quarter level. Then if you see here, I have here this revenue, March revenue. I want to see which of the customers are contributing for this revenue. That means I'm expecting the drill down action, detailed action. Presently, you can see here there are no actions defined in the cube. It's showing as no action defined. But if you want to see any detailed information, the drill down actions are very handy. Okay, so let's get into how we can create the drill down actions. To do the drill down actions, we need to come to this tab. Under that, first you need to click on this. There are three types of actions that we can perform. One is the new action, where you can write your customized code, and the other one is the new reporting action, where you can call SSRS report based on your parameters. And then there is the other option called new drill through action. So drill through action, purely you can select the columns, which are the columns that you want to display in your drill down detail level. You can select those columns. Now we'll go to the new drill through action. Here I clicked on the new drill through action, so here I'll put it like sales in details. That's my action name, and then action target is fat sales, and then you can put condition for what level you want to enable this particular measure. Okay, so particular action, at what level you want to enable it. So now I want to enable for sales in net USD. What I'll do, I'll simply, if my measures dot, let me copy this. So measures dot current member is this measure, then call these columns. Okay, so I'm going to select the columns from here. I want to take the sales net USD. Along with that, I can also want to bring the ASP USD and the dimension level. I want to bring who are the my seller customer. Under the seller customers, I want to take the customer name, and then under the time I want to take the time, and then here I go to the transaction date. So these are the three columns I want to display under the detail level. Okay, now then additional properties. So here you don't need to worry about these additional properties. I don't know why some of these is not displaying on the left side, but yeah, don't worry about additional properties. We don't use much here, and these are the basic properties that we set it to enable the actions. This is the simple drill through action, so that we are going to check it out. Now once my action is created, the sales in details action, now I'm going to deploy these changes. I just deploy the changes, then click as. That's it. My cube is the changes are deployed. Now I go here, and then data tab, refresh all, refresh. So now my Excel report is refreshed. Now let's see what we have here. See, now the drill down action is enabled. When I click on this drill down action, I got the detailed information. By using this detailed information, the business can do further analysis. Okay, so this is about pretty straightforward about the drill down actions. So there are other drill down actions that I mentioned. So new action, new reporting action. So these two are you can try from your end. Let me know in case if you're struggling there, so that I can prepare a couple of examples and drop a video. But let me know in case if you're stuck anywhere. Please leave a comment in the comment section, so that I'm happy to help you on these two steps. Now move on to the next topic: how to take the cube in online mode and do the necessary changes. To take Cube online, you need to open Visual Studio separately. So now what I'll do, I'll open the Visual Studio separately by choosing one of our existed solution. Now you can see here, it's the same solution I just opened in the new Visual Studio window. And this time what I do, instead of going and applying here, I go to the File tab. Under that, go to Open tab. Under the Open tab, you see Analysis Service Database. Now click that, and then here you can enter the server name of the your OLAP cube, and then under that server you will have many cube solutions, right? So for us, I want to take the retail cube in online, and once you select this database, click OK. That's it. Now your cube is in online. Now you can see here. So the cube solution is open online. How you identify whether my cube is open in online or not? You can see here next to the POC, it's showing in online. But if you look at in the back side of the solution, it's showing design. Design means it's in development phase, it's not in online. So whereas online means it's directly open the solution from SSMS. So whatever the changes that you do here, it's a directly reflect immediately to your SSMS. Now, so what you can do here for my previous number, what I'll do, I'll simply multiply with 100. Okay, and then once I'm done with my changes, just press save. When you do that, it's automatically saved your changes to Cube. Now, if you refresh your Excel file and then drag your previous number, now let's see what will happen. And then here you take the time hierarchy, and then your time hierarchy values will be multiplied with 100. You can see here it's multiplied with 100. That's how you take the cube in online. But careful when you take the cube in online, you need to be very careful because as soon as you apply the changes and saved it, it's directly published to end users. Okay, whoever connect to the queue that time, they will see these changes directly to their application. That's the part you need to take care of it. But otherwise, taking the cube is online is very handy to, especially for this. Just fixing the small calculations and all those things and creating the new calculations. For those scenarios, taking the cube is online very good. But you can also develop the cube by taking it online. But I don't advise because it's very risky. Okay, so that's how you take the online. Once you made your changes and saved it, close the solution. That's it. So yeah, since I removed this into 100 here, it's asking whether you want to publish the changes. I say save and it's published and the solution is closed. This is how you can open the cube solution online. Now moving on to the next part, how you can restore the cube solution if at all you lost from your server. To restore the cube from SSMS to your Visual Studio, what you need to do, you need to open the fresh Visual Studio. Let me open that Visual Studio. Once you open the Visual Studio, then you need to click on create a new project, and this time you need to use analysis import from server. This is the option you need to use it because you have the solution in your SSMS, and here it's already there. Here it's available, but you missed in the Visual Studio. So now what we can do, we can take that entire solution from SSMS. To do that, you need to select this import from server option, click next, and give a solution name, whichever solution name you want. Import MOLAP, and I don't want to change my path. And my solution name is same as my project name, create. And then next, and it will ask you from where you want to restore your solution. I want to connect to my local host, and which solution I want to restore, retail cube. Click next, and then that's it. It's importing entire cube structure from SSMS to Visual Studio. Now you can save this visual solution and you can do your new changes and deploy it. So this is how you can restore the solution from SSMS, even though you deleted accidentally the Visual Studio. But if at all you deleted your solution from SSMS, then there is no way. Let's say if you have already solution available in Visual Studio, you can redeploy it. But if you not there, your Visual Studio solution is not there and your SSMS solution is not there, then it's a gone case. So that's the reason the best practice is always take the backup of your cube solution. So how you take it, you can take the right click on cube and click on backup. So it will store in the ABF format. Whenever these things will happen, the unexpected things can happen anytime, right? So to avoid those scenarios, you can have this cube backup, and it will be handy to restore it. Okay, so in our scenario, as a best practice, on daily basis, we take our cube backup as well as we also, every time we do the development, fresh development, we take the solution from SSMS and start developing our changes and deploy it to the test server. That's how we manage as a best practice. Okay, and with that, so I think we covered all the topics. So now I hope all the topics are clear by going through these video 1 and 2 and this advanced session. So you are good to create a basic queue, not basic queue, create an intermediate queue, and then deploy it and make it work for the users and solve the business problem. So if you like this video, I know it's a very lengthy video. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos. And if you think that this video is useful for your friends, please feel free to share it. Until that, bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.